Okay, so a few months ago, this company, Antigravity, which was incubated from Insta360, and if you guys are familiar with the 360, they are the makers of this right here, the 360 camera. The A1 is the first 360 drone, and now DJI is releasing this one here, which is their version, the Avata 360. And for those wondering why I might need a 360 drone, well, if you were to think about just traditional 360 cameras like these, X5 and the Osmo 360, where you're able to capture everything around, now you're basically doing the same thing, except with the drone, you can capture 360 footage hundreds of feet up in the air, thousands of feet away. And the one thing that's really cool about 360 is that you are capturing everything. You have a 4K camera at the top, 4K camera at the bottom on both of these drones. Then once you're done shooting, all you do is bring it back into their own studio software, and then you can now pick and choose which angle you want from that footage. Because you're shooting in 360, you can reframe and move everything around, up, down, left, and right, and pick which angle you want to export out. With that said, after flying these two, there were some things that stood out to me as some of the main differences you might want to know if you are, of course, looking for a 360 drone, and you're like, hey, I know A1 came out a little bit earlier, DJI coming out with this one right here. What are some of the main differences between these two? We are going to talk about that in this video. However, when it comes down to specific specs, I am going to have a full review as far as specifications go between these two coming out in a couple weeks. Now, the first thing we will talk about right away when you see these drones and have them in your hand is the weight of the Antigravity A1. We have a sub 250 gram drone, which can be extremely important depending on where you fly because of the fact of regulations. A lot of times when you are flying drones that are under 250 grams, you might not need to register the drone with the FAA. However, most drones above 250, you will. And the Antigravity A1 folds down nice and small and compact, and it does weigh less than 250 grams, where here the Avata 360 definitely is heavier than 250 grams. So if you are worried about staying under that limit, you're gonna go with something like the A1 for your 360 needs. With that said, when everything is folded down, as you can see, the size of the A1 also definitely is much smaller. So if you are concerned about not only weight, but packing your gear and you want something as small and compact, as you can see here, the A1 definitely does meet those requirements as far as being really small, portable compared to this one here, which is the Avata 360. Now, while that size definitely is an advantage here to the A1, as you can see here, we do not have any propeller guards like we do on the Avata 360. So if you want to fly closer to objects and around trees, buildings, anything like that, or if you want to go into tight quarters, hit the gap with a drone, you're definitely gonna feel a lot more comfortable with the Avata 360 because of these propeller guards. The drones like these can pretty much take a pretty good beating. The likelihood of a drone surviving a crash, especially with these propellers sticking out, is definitely not gonna be as high as it would be with something like the Avata 360. Now, if you were to take a tumble, what's nice about both drones is that they do have replaceable lens kits. The Antigravity, they have their own replaceable lens kit here. So if you scratch up your lens on either one of these, if it were to fall or if you were to scrape it on the ground, yes, you can replace the lens. They do have their own lens replacement kit as well as DJI. The Avata 360 also has their own lens replacement kit. So if you were to crash it, scratch them up, you know that you can replace the lenses on both of these drones, which is really, really good. Next, we'll talk about takeoff and landing. And as you can see here on the Antigravity A1, we have fixed cameras here on the top as well as the bottom of the drone. Now, in order for you to get a clean stitch and footage from this bottom camera, as you can see here, we have little feet that come down because when you are landing the drone, if you didn't have the feet down, you're gonna land right on that camera lens right here. So what happens is that when you go into landing mode on the A1, these little tiny feet come out, gives you just enough height for you to clear that camera lens from hitting the ground. The feet is a pretty cool concept because when you do go into landing mode, it just automatically goes like that and allows you to now land. However, there are a bunch of times where I'm setting up my drone, and if you are setting it up, you need to make sure you manually put these feet out here before you put the drone on the ground. Something I did a bunch of times, and I think you might even see some light scratches on it. You need to put the feet out there if you are putting your drone down on the floor, or else you are going to scratch up that bottom lens. Now, the way DJI did their camera setup definitely is, in my opinion, a little bit better because of the fact that we have feet, landing feet here at the very bottom. We also have the lens. This whole camera rotates. So if you are in 360 mode, which is like this, you have a camera here at top, camera here at bottom. If you're going into landing mode, what happens is that this camera swivels just like this. And now you have little feet here at the very bottom for you to land on without having to scratch up or have that lens pointed downward. It's now pointed inside of the drone, and this one's pointed outside. And sticking with the camera, we'll talk about the next feature I do like on the Avata 360 is this right here. As you can see, we do have a camera pointed straight ahead, and that allows you to now have single lens mode on this drone. Now, single lens mode basically means the footage you're gonna get, if you were just to have the camera pointed straight, you're gonna get the raw footage coming from that single camera instead of shooting this way where you would get a stitched footage. You would get a footage from the top and the bottom, stitching that together, where here you do not have that option. If you wanted to have that forward facing camera, this one does not have a single lens mode, so you're always gonna have a stitched video that's coming from straight ahead. Next, we'll talk about piloting the drone, and of course DJI, they've been flying drones for many, many years now, and there's different ways for you to pilot the drone. The nice thing is that you have a few options here. You have FPV goggles you can use. This is the N3. We have the FPV goggles 3, which you're able to connect to the Avata 360. So if you wanted that full FPV immersive experience in goggles, you have that option here. You also have the motion controller. Now, A1 also has a motion controller. We will talk about that. But you have a motion controller here where you're able to pilot the drone using this. But the biggest benefit with the Avata 360 and DJI ecosystem is that you can now fly with the RC2 remote control, which is a more standard remote control. If you're used to flying any other drones, you're used to flying it like this and not normally with, you know, one of these or goggles. So you can now fly the Avata 360 with the RC2 remote control. And the one thing that's nice about this remote is that it does work with a bunch of other DJI drones. So if you are in that ecosystem and maybe you have a couple other drones, know that you can use the RC2 with those drones as well as this drone here. And besides the RC2, you can fly the drone with the FPV remote control 3, FPV 3 remote control. There's so many versions of it, so I get super confused. But yes, you can actually connect the FPV 3 remote control to the Avata 360 as well. Now, when it comes up to piloting the A1, we only have a couple options here, one option really, and that is the motion controller, which is this one right here, as well as goggles. So you can see what the drone sees through your immersive goggles. And these goggles are actually pretty cool because it has a screen here on the outside if you wanted to see what the pilot sees. But as far as controlling it goes, this is your only option. So there is no traditional remote control to fly the Antigravity A1 at the moment. There's been talks about them releasing one, but as of right now, from what I know, we don't have remote control, no release date on any separate remote control. Also, something to note too is that when I was out there about to fly with the Antigravity one, I totally forgot my battery because I forgot that this is still like an external battery. So that was kind of a bummer because I left my battery at home and I was so used to DJI where the battery is integrated into the headset here, as well as this one right here. So that's something to note too. You do still have the external battery on the Antigravity goggles compared to the DJI one. Next, we'll talk about the transmission, or that video feed, that signal from your drone to either your remote control or your drone to the goggles. I will definitely give that over here to DJI. Of course, they've been in the drone space for a very long time, so their transmission is rock solid. Here we have Antigravity. Not only is it their first drone, it's their first 360 drone, and working with 360, with Insta360, of course, the camera system works really well. But as far as drone goes and that signal, I'll definitely give it over here to DJI with their trusted transmission system. And finally, we'll talk about price. When it comes down to the Antigravity A1, this setup right here comes in around almost $1,300 for the Antigravity drone, the A1 drone, the motion controller, the goggles, and that's what you're gonna need to pilot this drone. Now, when it comes to the price of the Avata 360, the final pricing is going to be released on March 26th, and from what I heard, it's supposed to be a lot more affordable than the Antigravity A1. Now, when you're done shooting and you are editing, I will give it over to the A1 as far as their software. Because of the fact that this was an incubated company from Insta360, Insta360 has been doing 360 cameras for a very long time, so their software is a lot more robust as far as what you're able to do. I do like the Antigravity software when it comes down to desktop editing the footage compared to the DJI software. And even up to now, I'm still kind of confused when it comes to the DJI software when you're like creating a new project and I'm trying to access an old file. I feel like the interface on the DJI side is a little bit more confusing compared to the Antigravity software. And there it is, just some high level differences I noticed about these two cameras. Now, of course, image quality is gonna be another huge thing. I'm gonna be taking up the Antigravity a little bit more this week because I've been flying all the other drones. I haven't been putting this one up. So I do wanna get some newer footage from the Antigravity and of course put those side by side with the Avata 360 because image quality will definitely be a big deciding factor between these two drones. And also, if you guys haven't seen my first impressions video on this drone right here, I'll leave that video linked above as well as down below in the video description. As always, if you guys got some value from this video, a big like would be much appreciated. This is Ultra Nastasio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.